Well, hello there, you beautiful angels. Welcome back to my channel. Today you're watching me put together a letter for Pia, who lives in Germany. For her letter, I decided to create a calming blue theme. Instead of telling you another story from my past, this time I wanted to sit down and have a real, completely unfiltered chat with you about the hobby of pen paling itself. Penpalling looks incredibly peaceful, aesthetic, and effortless on camera, doesn't it? You scroll through social media and see the pretty wax seals, the crisp handwriting, and the flawlessly layered vintage collages, and the gentle lo-fi music playing in the background. It looks like an absolute dream, but behind the pretty Instagram photos and the satisfying TikTok videos, there is an entire subculture with its own unwritten rules, etiquette dilemmas, and honestly, a little bit of low-key snail mail drama. So today we're talking about pen pal etiquette, the do's, the don'ts, the awkward situations, and the unwritten rules that absolutely nobody tells you about when you first decide to exchange some home addresses with a stranger on the internet. Grab your current crafting project, get cozy, make yourself a tea or coffee, and let's get into the reality of snail mail. Let's start with the single biggest question and the most common source of anxiety in the entire pen pal community. How long is too long to wait before replying to a letter? When you first start out in this hobby, you're driven by pure, unadulterated excitement. You get a letter in the mail, you rip it open, and you want to sit down and reply to that letter the same exact night. But then real life inevitably happens. School gets busy, work piles up, exams hit, or you just experience a creative burnout where starting a blank page of paper feels completely exhausting. Suddenly, 2 weeks turn into a month turns into 3 months, and that is exactly when the ultimate heavy pen pal guilt sets in. You look at that beautiful envelope sitting on your desk and you feel too guilty to reply because so much time has passed already. You start thinking, what if they're mad at me? What if it's too awkward to reply now? Personally, I think the polite golden window is anywhere between 2 weeks to a month. That feels respectful and gives you time to breathe. But let's be real. We've all been in a situation where a letter sits for 3, 4, or even 6 months. My unwritten rule for overcoming this guilt is simple: honesty and grace always wins. If I take months to reply to a pen pal, I will simply message the person explaining my situation with complete and utter honesty and inform them that their letter will finally be on their way soon enough. This has happened to me often. That is the sole reason why I had an almost 2 year break from pen paling altogether. Because the letters kept on compiling, my motivation kept on depleting, and then I just stopped replying altogether. I still regret that I left those people in the unknown for so long. But after I got my courage back, I worked it out with some of my old pen pals and found plenty of new ones to continue my hobby. I would be lying if I said that I always keep myself to the golden window standard, because sometimes life simply gets too busy. But I am incredibly thankful that all of my pen pal friends are so nice and understanding about it all the time. What about you guys? What is your personal cutoff point? At what month do you receive a letter and think, yeah, they probably forgot about me? Let me know in the comments because everyone's boundaries at what time are different. The next topic is something I feel incredibly passionate about, and it's the intense pressure surrounding the goodies and extras in this hobby. If you spend any time watching stationery hauls or Penpal with me videos on YouTube, you'll see people sending these massive, heavy packages. They aren't just writing a letter. They are sending entire sticker sheets, multiple rolls of expensive washi tape, custom K-pop photo cards, multiple flavors of tea, keychains, and aesthetic memo pads. It is beautiful to watch, but it has created this weird, unspoken expectation that you have to send mountains of store bought gifts just to be considered a good pen pal. I call this the goodies arm race. And honestly, it can make the hobby feel incredibly toxic and exclusive. It turns a simple act of writing into a competition of financial flex. When I first started out at 13, like I told you in my last video, I fell into this trap hard. I bought everything I could find just to have stuff to share, even if I hated the aesthetic of it. But over the years, I realized a profound truth. The absolute best part of getting a letter is actually reading the letter. I would much rather receive a 3-page, deeply personal, funny letter written on plain notebook paper than a gorgeous, heavy envelope filled with mountains of expensive stickers, but only 3 sentences of actual conversation. My rule of thumb now is to keep goodies intentional and meaningful. If I'm doing a blue theme, like the one you're watching me make right now, I'll include a few items that naturally match the vibe. But I never want my pen pals to feel like they owe me a financial return. Snail mail is about human connection, not consumerism. If you're a beginner watching this and you don't have a massive stationery collection yet, please do not worry. Your thoughts, your stories, and your words are the most valuable thing that you can put into that envelope. Now, let's talk about the darker, more frustrating side of pen paling, the ghosting phenomenon. It happens to literally everyone in this community at least once. You meet someone on an app or Instagram, you exchange addresses, you spend hours crafting a beautiful first letter, and you never hear from them again. Or even worse, you exchange letters with someone for an entire year, you feel like you're building a genuine, deep friendship, and then suddenly, without warning, the mail just stops coming. It hurts. It really does. Because you've invested your time, your creativity, your postage money, and your personal stories into that person. But over the years, I've learned that you cannot take that ghosting personally. People outgrow their hobbies, their financial situations change, and they can suddenly no longer afford international stamps. Or their mental health dips, and checking the mailbox becomes overwhelming. But what do you do when you are the one who wants to stop writing? This is the ultimate peak awkward etiquette dilemma. What do you do when you realize that you just don't click with that person anymore? Maybe your personalities are too different, or their letters start feeling like an absolute chore to answer. Do you just ghost them and feel guilt forever? Or do you confront them? Honestly, ghosting feels bad, but sending a formal breakup letter feels incredibly awkward too. Can you imagine checking your mailbox, getting a beautifully decorated envelope, opening it up, and reading, "Dear Saturn, I'm writing to inform that our vibe check has officially failed, and I will no longer be accepting mail from you. I wish you the best in your future writing endeavors." That sounds absolutely brutal. It feels like getting fired from a friendship. My personal approach to this is a bit more subtle. If I feel the connection naturally fading out, or if I got too ambitious and took up too many pen pals at once, I simply pour out my true feelings into a heartfelt message. I feel like this saves up a lot of time from the person that I'm writing to, letting them know in advance that something just simply didn't click, or whatever the situation might be. And as I mentioned before, I believe that this hobby is built upon utter honesty. Not too long ago, I was on the receiving end of one of those messages. In my first letters, I always like to mention the existence of my girlfriend as almost a test of some sort for my pen pals to see if they're not discriminatory towards that. And once I received a message that the person wasn't comfortable continuing on friendship because of their faith. Of course, at first it felt hurtful, because any relationship ending is. But I appreciated that information because it allowed me to spend my energy on other people more efficiently and simply said, I wouldn't want to talk to a person that doesn't accept me who I am, anyways. Since we're being completely honest today, we have to talk about safety. When I look back at it, being 13 years old, handing out my home address to people across the globe, it gives me a little bit of anxiety. I was incredibly lucky that the community was safe and kind to me, but as an adult now, I highly recommend setting strict boundaries. Nowadays, I like to chat with the person for a little bit before officially becoming pen pals, just to see if that person is actually wanting to partake in this hobby together, or if they're some sort of creep or scammer simply hunting for my address. I've actually never run into a situation where I gave out my address to the wrong person, and I have to thank my lucky stars for that. Furthermore, etiquette isn't just about how fast you write, it's about respecting privacy. Never share photos of your pen pal's letter, their full names, their return addresses, or their private venting sessions on your social media without asking them first. A letter is a private conversation between two people, and keeping that trust alive is the backbone of the entire hobby. At the end of the day, despite the long waiting times, the rising cost of postage stamps, the occasional ghosting, and the existential guilt of messy desks covered in paper scraps, I would never trade this hobby for anything else in the world. In a world that is so aggressively digital, fast paced, and temporary, there is something deeply sacred about knowing that someone across an ocean sat down at a desk, lit a candle, picked up a physical pen, and spent an hour of their limited time on Earth thinking specifically about you. It is a slow, intentional kind of love and friendship that you just can't replicate through a quick text message, Snapchat, or an Instagram DM. We learn as we go. We make mistakes. We accidentally leave people on red in real life for 6 months. But this community is built on a foundation of grace, art, and storytelling. If you made it all the way to the end of my massive yapping session today, thank you from the bottom of my heart for hanging out with me while I crafted Pia's blue letter. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on pen pal etiquette in the comments below. Have you ever been ghosted? What is your biggest pet peeve when you open a letter? Let's have a cozy chat down in the comment section below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe so you don't miss out on my stationery journey. Until next time, you beautiful angels, yappingly yours, Saturn. Micho, get out of my paper. Micho, go away. It looks like an app. For fuck's sake, kitties. Why do you have to make noise? And you don't laugh. And that is exactly when the ultimate heavy penpal guilt. Guys! How am I supposed to record in these conditions? But then, real life inevitably. I can't say that word. You're making sounds. And thank you so much, phone storage, for cutting out my footage. At the end of the day, despite the long waiting times, the risk of cost, nope, the rising. Go cozy and make yourself a tea or coffee. I needed to burp. Grab yourself your current project